It's getting to be old news now. Sad, yeah.
Ready to go? We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item will be roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. W. Johnson? Mr. Brooks?
Present.
Mr. Griffin?
Here.
Mr. Median?
Here.
Mr. Grant? Here. Mr. Kirk and you bring to Dr. Gustafson will be in.
I would take a motion to approve the agenda with one change, strike the director's report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The previous meeting minutes, there's one change for sure. Under 6B, Mr. Meehan made a motion to approve 4, 5, and 6 on that list. Not the time.
And Mr. Chairman, I've given that to Ryan,
Okay.
those changes, and then there was one change on Mr. Fritz, 6A. What that say, Ron? Nursing 4,500. It had the dollar amount. Basics.
Are there any other changes?
The only other change, sir, was the roll call with Doc being gone, absent, but listed on
With those changes, the minutes will stand approved. It's presented. Public comment. Is there anything sent in? No. Report of officers, CFO report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm having trouble hearing you guys, so I might have to ask you to repeat yourself. Can you guys hear me okay?
You sound good.
Okay. My report starts on page 3 of the packet, budget performance, the summary. This is up through August. So our operating revenue is still just a little above budget. That's really due to the stimulus funds we received and the additional GEMT revenue, as we've seen a decline in our service fees this year. Total expenses, they look like they're slightly above budget, but when you factor in the capital purchase expenses and the one-time expenses, we're really right on budget there. Anybody have any questions on any of that?
it.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
On non-operating revenue at the bottom there, could you tell me what gain loss on asset disposition is? That's a new term to me. I'm not sure what that is.
So we sold a truck, and that's what that's from.
Okay. So that's selling things that we don't need anymore.
Correct.
Okay.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, please, on page 4, refresh my memory under Medicaid, provider tax and fees. Tell me again what that is.
So in Missouri, the way our Medicaid works, and a lot of states work this way now, they go to a fund and then it's dispersed out to us. So for Medicaid, our remittance advice, I'm just going to give you some round numbers for examples. Our remittance advice may say we got $50,000 in Medicaid. And then there's some taxes and fees that come off of that for the pooled resources, and then the state gets a portion of that money back. And it's kind of hard to understand till you see the report. I can put one of those in there for you guys so you can see that. But it's basically so we can get our FRA amount, so we get a higher mileage amount because we are rural.
That makes sense.
So-
I recall that now, and it's basically a service fee. They're just charging us for.
Yeah, there's several
Thank you.
fees involved in that, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so page 4 is the detail, starts the detail of the budget performance. So it breaks down those expenses and revenues a little bit deeper. Any questions on any of that? Our insurance expense is for employee benefits. Remember, we pay that a month in advance, so we're on budget at 72% because we would be 9 months in the year for employee benefits. Total payroll expenses, we're on budget too. Actually, we're a little bit under budget there. Any other questions on the details there? Okay, page 8 is the statement of net position, our balance sheet, basically, our assets and liabilities. Any questions on any of that? Page 10 is our revenues, expenses, and changes in net position this year to date through August versus last year to date through August. Again, you can see there are revenues up slightly, but again, that's the stimulus and the GEMT revenue that's causing that increase in revenue over last year. And of course, our expenses are up for various reasons. One was the increase in payroll, and then just overall COVID expenses. Any questions on any of that?
Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Bluegreen, bank service charges are up about $350. Do you attribute that to any particular thing or item or process?
The only thing that we have that is a bank service charge is our credit card fees. There's just been more credit card payments. That's why it's up. Any other questions? Page 11 is our sales tax receipts for the last 5 years, 6 years, 6 years, and 7 year to date. So we are over last year 4%. We're up 104,000 for the month of October. What we received was 57,924 higher than last year, which is very impressive considering we didn't have a state or a regular state fair. Some of that is still just catch up. I always analyze this compared to last year. And if you look at the next page there on page 12, I kind of give you an analysis versus year to date average and then what we had budgeted. And if you will look at October, and it's the fourth column from the right, that monthly budget variance, that 33,000 for the month, that's the increase in actual sales, taxable sales for the month. The rest of the increase versus last year was just the sales tax rate going back up to the 1/2 cent. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, page 13 is bank balances on the 8th versus the 17th. You can see that jump there from the CARES Act funds we received. Page 14 is the cash reserve analysis. Again, you'll see that jump. Any questions on either of those?
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment. I have moved the $224,000 and some $100 and some pennies out of the ambulance replacement fund back into our general operating. So that happened the 8th. So it just didn't get reflected on here as a curve. So, okay.
Pages 15 through 18 are the check register. Somebody asked a question last time about the board's payroll. That dollar amount is on here at $893.50 on the 21st of last month. And then you should have a folder there with the bank statements and bills. In there, in the bank statement, bank rec, is all of the supporting documents for every charge. So if you want to see the breakdown of the $893.50, that is in that bank statement. Any questions on any of the things on the check register? Okay. Page 19 is the AP aging summary of our current bills due, and then 20 through 23 is the details there. Anybody have any questions on any of that?
Yes, Mrs. Lou Green, on page 19, National Billing and Collection, $3,400.
Mm-hmm.
That was the old collection, right? Or
Correct. We still pay them for everything we're collecting that they billed.
okay.
So we'll still be paying them monthly for quite a while. I mean, we have lots of patients that pay a monthly amount, so we'll still be paying them for quite a while. Any other questions? Pages 24 through 26 are the credit card statement for last month. Anybody have any questions on any of those charges?
Yes. Mrs. Lou Green, on page 26, the large purchases at Sutherland's and Missouri Furniture, my memory is we bought some chairs and also some clothes washer and dryers. Is that right?
So the Sutherland's one is the chairs for Windsor, the 2676. That's the chairs for Windsor. And then the Missouri Furniture one, I think we talked about that, and it may have been a meeting I wasn't at. But the check for the couches we purchased back in May never arrived at Missouri Furniture. So we had to void that check, and then we just paid them through the credit card to get them paid. So they're both the furniture.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Are there any other questions for the CFO?
That's the end of my report.
If not, go ahead.
I'll make that motion. Motion to approve those.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Chief's report, Eric.
Good evening. I'll start with the obvious. I'm not there. We've dodged many a bullet since the start of this whole COVID ordeal. Unfortunately, we do have one positive case right now. This was a command staff level person, so there were some what I'd call minor exposures in the office, but on the advice of the health department, we're working remotely as much as possible. I discussed several options for testing, should we need to, and it really, if we were to even just test everybody in the entire district, there's not really much point in it. The reason being is that test is great for that day you're tested, just a snapshot. I don't know what happened, but I've got a giant picture of Roy on my screen right now. You guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So we're all doing fine. The individual that's positive is asymptomatic, so everything's going as good as possible. The exposure was about a week ago. The positive test was last Thursday, I believe. And so luckily this happened over the weekend. We weren't really around. But like I said, the rest of this week, between the discussions I've had with the health department, we're playing it safe. And so wanted to let you guys know everything's good. Everybody's healthy. We're just being very cautious. So I'll be in and out of the office a couple times this week, as well as Roy and Jamie. The air scrubber update at the top. Actually, I was having some computer issues last week. Not computer, but well, Eric Excel issues last week. So I was unable to get the call volume report. So I'll share that with you on my screen right now. And hopefully everybody can see that. You guys got that?
Yeah.
Okay. That's actually 2019. 2020, as you can see here, we are from last year, we're about 10 down in overall call volume, around 25 down in a total transport. So downward trend a little bit for the month of September, that is, with 640 total and 423 transports. Our year-to-date call volume, we are up a couple hundred calls. Last year, we're at 5562, and we're at 5757 this year. So roughly 200 calls there. Windsor had a fairly decent month last month, and not a lot of transfers. Most of them coming out of Bothwell. Well, quite a few coming out of Bothwell, to be fair. 102 total call volume with 57 total transports. So we are still doing some transports out of Valley down there. No big issues to report as far as call volume, and like I said, the slight decrease for the month. Air scrubber update. As far as that goes, we're working with ARV to kind of coordinate how we're going to get all of our units in up there for the units, the ambulance scrubbers installed. So we've got to figure out, we're hopefully going to get somebody down from ARV to install them at PCAD. The actual install of them doesn't take very long, but just coordinating that effort to get all of them in there is going to be what we're working out over the next couple of weeks. The station scrubbers are actually scheduled. I spoke with him today, and they should be installed, or starting to be installed, tomorrow morning. I was informed they only take about maybe 15 to 30 minutes to install. They've got to cut a hole in the vent and run some wires down, and it's pretty much a plug and play type deal. So I'm happy to say those will be in tomorrow, not a moment too soon. Station 1, the water supply line, we were dealing with that at the end of last week. Essentially, we're good to go out there. They ended up going, our main water supply line comes right above the check valve for one of the for the sprinkler system in the bay. But our local fire department's satisfied. Everybody seems to be satisfied that the residential requirements will not hinder the commercial side of that. Basically, the bay sprinklers will still be able to offer good protection out there without any decline. We did test the water. I spoke with Mr. Fritz about this last week, and everything looked really good. I'm waiting on a bacterial type test to come through, but everything looked really good. The chlorine level was a little bit high, but I don't know what Sedalia water normally runs at, but everything else looked great on it. So that's a good peace of mind there. I do not have any news on the generator at this time. Station 5, Windsor Ambulance District is, if you've ever been down there on the east side of the building, there's kind of a odd little covering that covers the exterior entrance to the basement on the east side of the house. They're redoing it. That's where a lot of our flooding came from, was just water running down those stairs and leaves and debris clogging up the drain. It would roll over into the basement. So hopefully we'll take care of that problem with this, and they should be making some pretty good progress on it. I haven't been down there this week. Education, our EMT class is doing test prep. The class is over, but they're actually doing some final test prep, and I don't know if Justin's live on here. He'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe their final is the first of next week. They should be completely done. He said they've really came around in the past couple weeks of class, which is usually the case, but I just wanted to let you guys know the class came out really good. A lot of the students are doing really well. I expect a really high test rate of them. So it'll be nice to have Justin back in PCAD business and out of EMT class for a while. I'm sure he probably needs a break, but he's done an excellent job on it, as well as the people who've precepted all the students doing their ride a long time. So thank you, Justin, for that, if you're listening. Operations and supplies, our COVID supplies are doing good. We have a good supply of everything, which of course, the N95s are still kind of problematic. We're not out of them, but we just don't have as many as I'd like. And I think it's probably going to be that way for a while. So I'm going to sound like a broken record, I would imagine, through the end of the year when it comes to COVID supplies. Nothing else is really in a shortage right now. So looking good on that. Our Zoll vents that the board approved, I'm still anticipating their arrival at the end of November and hopefully placement and in service around the first couple weeks of December. We'll be able to in service everyone and get them on the trucks, and we'll be good to go on those new vents. The windows on the South Bay wall, we had an estimate for it. I'm going to get the board another estimate. I don't know if Mr. Fritz, you wanted to speak to that.
I think we'll wait till we get the estimates.
Okay.
It was an overall agreement in the board that we talked about, improving the windows and sealing that building up eventually throughout time. And we've got some money left over in that account to do the windows that we talked about, making better windows.
Yeah, the bricked up windows on the north side of the bay seem to have really made a tremendous difference out there. Wintertime, we'll get that north wind, so I think we'll see even more improvement upon maybe our bills and our ability to heat that bay a little more efficiently this winter. So I look forward to that. I do have a presentation on the remaining COVID equipment. If you guys don't have any questions on that main bulk of my report, I can go ahead and go into that if that's all right.
Yes.
Chief,
Okay.
a couple questions. You said you didn't have a generator update, but it's still not operable, or what? Where do we stand with that?
We're still waiting on plumbing. We're still waiting on parts and some check valves for it that apparently are just nowhere in the world to be found right now. But yeah, we're just waiting on plumbing. And I'm just frustrated as everyone on that. But we are keeping on top of it, and I will update the board as soon as I have some information, and I hope that's not very long. We've already went through 2 different plumbers on this, just in case maybe that was the issue. I really don't think that's the issue, though. COVID has slowed everything down, and I know the last plumbing company we had, they had at least one person out. I'm not sure if it was leave or vacation or sickness or what, but the last I heard, he was supposed to be back in service this week. So I'm hoping to hear something from him this week.
So we're talking about the backup generator, and we need a plumber.
Yeah, yes, that does sound unusual. The plumber has actually installs the gas lines all the way to the unit. So they'll be coming from the north side of the bay, actually the northwest portion of the building out in the alley, all the way across the bay to where that generator sits. Over there by the dumpster in the middle of the 2 large bay doors. So pretty good run of plumbing, and there's a couple specialty valves, to my understanding, that have to go in there. And that's the parts we were having issues with. And obviously being natural gas, it's important to get it right. So there's not really anybody else we can farm that out to. Once they do that, Liberty can come in and finish up the job with a new meter.
I guess it's worth commenting. I mean, when we looked at those bids, it was you get your own gas hooked up. I mean, they wanted no part of it. This has been a nightmare.
Who's doing that? Is it local?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Well, first of all, it was assigned to Craig Plumbing. Is that correct? Numerous attempts to further this thing along were made. I got involved in that. It was made by Eric choice to find a different plumber. We have now another local plumbing. It's now with Meyer Plumbing. And they have ran into the same issue, identifying the same part, trying to locate the same part that Liberty has told them that they have to have in this engineered process of putting this thing together. So,
Both of those are very capable.
yeah,
Plumbing.
yeah, yes.
We could try some out of town resources, but I don't know how you all feel about that, but it's looking like it's not going to make any difference at this point.
So it's my understanding then that Liberty Energy is the one who's requiring these special parts and they don't have the access to them?
That's my understanding, yes. It's a kind of separate deal. They'll take us to the meter, and then we have to get the generator.
And that's not an unusual thing. It's a high pressure valve is what they're after, or what they're requiring. And
Yeah.
we got into that a lot, but I'm surprised that it haven't. COVID, maybe it's not where you can't get them. I don't, that'd be one thing.
I tried to grease the wheel.
Okay, and then one more question for the chief. Ultraviolet lights, are we okay 5 of those, but you didn't talk about those, so are those just ordered or what?
They are ordered. As you can imagine, there's a pretty long waiting list on them. I think the last thing we heard, it seems everything we're ordering is 2 months, but I think that's what the last update we had on them was 6 to 8 weeks from time of ordering, which would have been at the last board meeting or after the last board meeting. So I imagine they'll probably be getting here about the same time as the vents. Until then, we've been using we have a portable air scrubber and we've been using UV light and our other decontamination, just the good old manual stuff. Elbow grease, essentially. But like I said, I've seen, I certainly won't say anybody's doing it wrong, but I really believe PCAD is doing it right as far as decountering our units. I know our crews have done just an amazing job of keeping themselves and the trucks clean after each and every call, and more so after any suspected COVID calls. So our exposure, just for the record, I don't believe that actually came from PCAD. I think that came from a second job type situation. I can't, obviously no way to prove that, but I don't believe it did come from PCAD by the timelines involved. So unfortunately, that's the way it goes. You know, you get COVID and you don't know you have it and you end up spreading it. So that's the kicker with good old COVID. So any other questions on that? Or like I said, as soon as I know something, I will let the board know, probably via email, because I know this has been a pressing issue for a long time. So I will definitely keep everyone posted as soon as I know any information.
Chief, Fritz here.
Yes, sir.
I didn't get a chance to follow up with you today. Did we ever get anything from Dugan's on a diagnosis of that west window? The leak above that west window? Did we ever get them?
I'll have to get back with you on that, John. I'm
Okay.
not sure. I'm not
That's
sure.
fine. Okay.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm going to jump into this presentation. Will do my best to share my screen here. All right. Is that up and running?
Yes.
Everybody see that COVID information screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Basically what this is it's just a rundown of really basic information about any of that remaining equipment on that list. There's a few numbers on here, but I would defer to that list. Jamie put it together, and I always trust her to do a better job with that than I did. But I did put the numbers off of that list on here. So the first item I have up here is what they call a PAPR. And it is what it says. It's a powered air purifying respirator. It's essentially the same thing a firefighter wears, like an SCBA, only it's on the medical side of things. You wouldn't want to walk into a fire with this, but it's battery operated, has filters, and rechargeable batteries. It sounds like the battery life on these is going to be just fine. I first noticed EMS services started using these in the hotter states, specifically some crews in New Mexico and Arizona. We're using them just because masks were so overbearing for them to wear when they were, especially out on car wrecks and stuff. The crews were just getting overheated and they just weren't practical. So they switched the PAPRs down there. However, the PAPRs are a much more effective device. They do a much better job of filtering the air. You have 100% face shield coverage, and you can kind of see there on the screen. You can hear, you can use medical instruments, you can see a lot better than if you had some of the side shields, perhaps, say on your glasses. I know we've got a few people that wear those on their glasses. So these kind of give you a much better view. I believe you can wear glasses underneath them as well. And the hope is to put 2 each on every unit. So you've got 1 for each crew member and then one on each command unit. They're just they're a superfied version of a high efficiency particulate respirator. So this is the 3M model, and our list price on that is around $1,750. Our current one of our medical supplies, this is our best price we've found so far, is at $1,460, which is different from, I believe, what was on that list last week. So that's not set in stone as far as, is that the only model out there? However, 3M is probably the most reputable. It's the best model that I can find for the money. They go up from there. The ones that go down from there are not really meant for EMS use. So these things can actually get out in the field and take a little abuse. And we've got everything we need to plug them in. You just basically hook up a charger and let them rip in the ambulance. So that's it on the PAPRs. There's a little better picture of one of the helmets there, so you could look like somebody from Star Wars if you want. But they do work, and people have expressed an interest in using them. I personally think they're much more comfortable than wearing a mask, especially on high risk or known COVID patients, which we are running many more of, many more positive patients, and several of them being vent dependent, high risk patients. So that's the unit. The binder lifts, the short version of this is anytime you've ever wanted to have handles on your patient, which is every patient pretty much. You can see they've got some illustrations on there. The long and short of it is, though, there's about 25 handles this puts on the patient. And if you've ever seen a lineman or a mountain climber, it basically hooks on the patient like that. So it secures their entire torso, their legs. You can see those up in the right-hand corner. They're picking that lady up out of her chair, and that's where we have a lot of pain and discomfort for our patients when we pick them up. We've got both regular and bariatric on that list. If I had to choose between the one, it would certainly be the bariatric. And I'll show you on this next slide. You can kind of see the problems we have with other devices. One of the nice things about the binder lifts is it gets you out of, you're not quite as close to the patient. That's one of the reasons they're a COVID item. But up there in the upper right, again, you can see one of the problems. I can speak for myself when I say I'm a little bit top heavy. And being where we're at in the world, we get a few of that like that. So it is a real problem when you lift somebody up by the waist by a lift belt, that their top just goes over. You know, these are already sick people. They're already weak in many cases. We do use sheets a lot. Oddly enough, it's the lowest tech, but it's the most effective thing we've ever had, really. But it alone is not really sufficient. It doesn't secure to the patient. There are dangers involved in it, and you can easily end up dropping someone. Most of the safest thing we use a sheet for on a regular basis is transferring from bed to bed. But these are multi-purpose use. You can pull people out of cars, bathrooms, tubs, anything, and they are reusable. So the transfer tarps, we do have those now. They're just essentially a large, heavy-duty tarp with handles on the end of it. But for lack of a better definition of it, if it gets wet, if it gets any sort of fluids on it, it's just a great big slip and slide. So they're handy, but they're not always practical. I'm really happy with the binder lift reviews I'm getting. There's about 30 other services in the state that use them. And I've got great reviews. I know they use them up at Saline County, and we've got a few people that have worked up there with them and spoke really highly of them. So that's about it on the binder lifts. And like I said, if I had to triage that out, I'd probably choose the bariatric versions, just because that's going to be, where you get more injuries, more risk involved with the heavier patients. They run, the regulars are $750-ish a piece. The bariatrics are about $100 more, and that puts one on each truck. Now that bid is for 11. If we wanted to do one for the 12th truck, obviously the price is right there. It'd be another $750 or $850 each. For 11 of them, we're looking at, for the regular and bariatric, a total of $17,578. I don't think there's anything else there, but just some interesting statistics. 8% of patient falls happen inside the home. Back injuries, as the board probably knows, this is one of the biggest problems you have with EMS personnel, and it leads to a lot of burnout and a lot of injuries that we just, we don't want to get people out of the field before their time. So the next item is the LifePak monitors. This is an item that's got a shelf life. We're approaching on several of them. We had an opportunity. We've got about 7 monitors that are what they call version 1 or V1 software. They're not really worth much, and every year we go by, they're going to be worth less and less. They're already up to V3, I believe. I don't look for the next version of LifePak to come out probably for the next 3 years. Essentially, we're getting these at half price. By the time you buy one of these monitors new with a service plan and everything, you're looking at around $40,000. This would upgrade 7 of our oldest monitors, and also improve our trade-in value when we do eventually need to upgrade down the road. But having these brand new monitors on hand would give us probably another 7 to maybe even 10 years of use on all of those old monitors. So it's a pretty good steal. Everything right now from our striker who sells LifePak is roughly 50% off. So the 8 would be to stock one on the 12th unit if the board so chooses to do. I know we talked about that before, but the issue I'd like the board to consider when making this decision is that 12th unit not having a monitor on it. If we had to use it, we have to pull a monitor off another truck, and they're assigned very specifically and narrowly to each unit using the onboard internet connectivity through the Wi-Fi units and internet, all the internet connections. Everything is very specific to that unit, including the designation of that monitor. So essentially, when they do their report, the monitor kicks up and says, this is LifePak 8, and LifePak 8 stays on unit 8, so we can keep every monitor in its place and a place for every monitor, if that makes sense. Again, that gets you a new monitor for half price in a nutshell. Moving along, the Lucas devices. Stryker was pushing these very hard. The AHA has done a lot of reviews on these. They do amazing CPR. Many of the services I know that have bought them do a lot of rural responses. A lot of their primary base is rural. We've kind of shied away from them because most of our calls, as you know, are in the city. And they're very bulky. They're probably about the size of that little white carrying case you see on the left on that picture to the right. That's the carrying case for it, and it's probably about the size of it's a good size backpack. It's a battery powered device, and they are we've got a list on those at $16,495. Excuse me, a bid on those at $16,495 through the representative that sells those through Physio Control. That is for one for every unit. They're quite bulky, but we do have room for them on the units. So the idea behind these being related to COVID is fairly obvious. You don't have to do hands-on CPR. And every time you press on someone's chest, you cause an exhalation, which can cause spray, mist, any kind of whatever is in there to float up and contaminate the air. So this gets us a lot more reach for the patient. If we did ever have to transport somebody that was in cardiac arrest, which we try to avoid as much as possible for obvious reasons. But if we did have to transport somebody who needed chest compressions, which does happen, these devices allow the paramedic or the EMT or whoever's doing CPR to actually be strapped in safely in the back of the unit, so they're not running around while the unit's screaming down the road. That's, as you can imagine, caused some pretty grievous injuries in EMS. A lot of head injuries for crews happen that way because you never know when you might have to slam on your brakes. CPR is very, very dangerous in the back of the ambulance, and that's probably, in my opinion, one of the biggest selling points of these is not only the effectiveness of the CPR, but the safety that's involved in transporting any patient in cardiac arrest. They can be stopped and started very easily, and like I said, the battery life on them, I've not heard of anybody having any problems with batteries running out. And the worst case scenario, the battery runs out and you have to do regular CPR. So there's really not a downside to them other than the cost. 12 each at $16,500. That's just some little, that's basically what I just said, but it's all about provider safety. And they're really selling these things for the COVID patients or anybody who's infectious, just to extend your reach and make it much safer for crews to do CPR. One of the biggest problems with CPR is pausing between compressions. Some of you might have had CPR a few years back, and not personally, but given had the class a few years back, and it used to be 15-2 for a while. It was 5-1 ratio of compressions to breaths. What they found was anytime you stop compressions at all, it takes about 5 to 8 compressions to actually start perfusing the heart again. So essentially every time you stop, you have to start over and then do it for a while for it to be effective. So they've got much better much better results for survival to discharge with just continuous CPR compressions on these things. So they've actually, they do improve outcome. And final unit, the ambulance, I put one of them on there. This is a cost for one. I know Jamie had talked about some ways to maybe work another one in there. These obviously would not be here until probably 4 months down the road if they were ordered today. Roughly the cost is $216,000 each, fully equipped with all the radios, CAD equipment, internet equipment, the hotspots, everything we throw in there. You're looking at $230,000 a piece for those new ambulances. The nice thing, if we did do 2 here, is it put us in range of starting to look at remounts, which is going to save us quite a bit of money through that whole fleet of AEVs. We'll be able to remount each of those at a much greater savings. But that's the cost at this time, is $230 on the ambulances. And I know that was a lot of information. Here's kind of the summary that was in the board report last week. Like I said, the I did not put the power loads in here. I think everybody is familiar with what those are. Those are the unit that actually lifts the cot up into the back of the truck and then slides them forward on that sled. The other price that was off in here was the UV lights. That's been corrected. So I think I might have an old list here, and Jamie, you'd probably agree with me there. But the other problem on this one was the PAPRs. We had estimated at 500 a piece, which was way off the mark there. But it was kind of hard to find a supplier on those. So even if we did, even if the board did approve those, I think those PAPRs would probably be another item that's going to take at least 2 months to get here. So if the board does approve those, it's the sooner the better on those for sure. And that is all I have for that presentation.
Are there any questions?
I know that's a lot of info.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Committee reports, strategic planning committee. Would you like to touch on the meeting?
Yeah, we're working on a questionnaire. I don't believe that was in the board packet this time. Essentially, what I'd like to be able to do is email that out to you guys, or snail mail it, whichever you prefer, or both. And it is about a 2-page survey of your own. It's very district-specific questions and goal-specific questions for the district. Where do you see the district? What do you think our greatest faults are? What do you think our greatest assets are? So forth. And I really think after we met for a little while, I believe that's about a week and a half ago, I think that's kind of where we boiled down to is, I think that's the best place to start, because that gives each of you the opportunity to kind of share what your vision for the district is, what your goals and needs and wants and concerns are for the district. And before I think we finalize any sort of outline, I'd really like to know where the board stands on that, because it is, after all, your plan. It's the plan for future boards to kind of see. It's not a money specific process. It's really a goal oriented process. But I think that questionnaire is the best place to start. What we're doing now is we need to set a date. I don't know if we'll be able to do that tonight, but we need to set a date for our next meeting, so we can kind of finalize that questionnaire and get it out to the board.
Are there any questions? If not, we'll move on to unfinished business, CARES Act funds disbursement presentation, which Eric's already given that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself there.
Thoughts, questions, or discussion on that? Since there are none, we'll move on to the 16th Street property discussion. And we did have some of the RFPs from the realtors here. Proposal here for RE/MAX.
Are these all the same that RE/MAX?
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently so.
More if you ask me.
Should we confirm that this is that this was the only one we received?
Was there only one RFP presented for the real estate? Jamie? Was there only one RFP from RE/MAX?
Yeah, when I spoke to the battalion chief on duty today, he said there was just one dropped off. So since we couldn't be in the office, that's as far as I know, there's just one.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I want to add to it.
Yes.
In addition to that RFP being posted as we have agreed to in the Democrat, it was also sent out to all realtors by the State Board of Realtors. So if you're a member of the State Board of Realtors, you knew about this. So it's just one thing I wanted to add.
Have we not had any interest other than VIII? Is that?
Oh, no, we've had interest in, quite a bit of inquiry, but they want a lot, or they want a piece of the front. And, as best as I can with just who I am on the phone, I try to share with them that it's my understanding the board's intent is to sell, the entirety or half where it's equitable, that we just, we're not going to sell the best portion of the ground.
Well, I don't particularly like the comment that it's priced way too high. You can always come down, but you can't come up. And I don't agree with you being that much too high. No, was there any reason the rest of the guys didn't want to look at it, or?
You mean other realtors?
Here down, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, is this the only?
This is the only one.
It Remax and that was it?
Yeah.
I don't know. You would think that, you think that they would have been hungry enough to, for a commission. I'm not certain of why there hadn't been a response.
With only one response, locally, I think we ought to go, out of town to some of the bigger boys and let them, you see, I don't know, you see their signs around.
Oh,
I think we ought to advertise again. And one's not enough.
If I may.
Yes.
I saw that, I read, of course, first time we've all seen this, it was read it real quickly, and I don't like that idea either, that they have indicated that the price too high. We may or may not know that, but they are also saying, hey, let's have a discussion. And maybe before we go out of town to look for a realtor, we do have a discussion. Just have everybody come in and, they know what we feel like and where they're going, and if they say, I guess I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of any realtor, do they really want to list a property if they know they're gonna spend a lot of time and effort marketing it, and they know the price is gonna be over where we can market or something, and have a chance of deciding that it's not gonna be realistic. But maybe there's that spread of dollars amount that they think that there would be, somewhere in between what they think and what we think, I guess.
We can talk about it, but anytime guys tell you something like that, he's looking for a quick commission and not working for the seller. My opinion. And we wouldn't hurt to talk to them, I guess.
In my opinion, so I'm gonna preface this with, I spoke with the chairman, about this whole deal. This will be a vote I'll have to recuse myself from. There's no reason I can't be part of this discussion. And, the fact is that it does surprise me that we only had one realtor respond to this. I think we put adequate notice out there. I don't know what the reason is. Having been a former real estate broker licensed state of Missouri, I'm not even going to speculate as to why we only got one of these. And obviously, this company, they're one of the largest realtors in town. So And they've obviously gone to the expense and time to respond. And I agree that we ought to give them the time to visit with the board. Okay.
Well, I believe it would be appropriate to have them come to our next meeting and we can discuss with them
Yeah,
before we move outside the area.
and whether or not, if I might, whether or not you want to do that in open session or closed session when we're talking about pricing and those kind of things, that would of course be up to the chair. But yeah, I think inviting them in and having a discussion is a good idea. That's a good step. And at this point, we're not making a selection, even though we only got one.
Right.
And even after the discussion that we would have with them, that still doesn't obligate us to stay with them. I mean, we still would make that choice at that time.
We can still move outside there.
Sure.
So desire. We'll try to set that up for the next meeting and have them come in, at least one of them visit with us. We need to move back to the CARES Act fund disbursement. I believe everything that's ordered, we approved the last meeting, didn't we?
That's correct.
I believe Eric had a question to ask the board.
Yes, if you don't mind, thank you. As far as that, like I said, I know it was a lot of information. However, some of the bids we got, especially on I know the heart monitors bid expires the 8th of next month. I would ask that the board give us some direction on how to proceed on those funds. If we can spend some of that money on this equipment, or just how the board would like to proceed. That would be my question.
Would the board like to take action on some of these items? There's at least the heart monitors. That's a really good bid.
I think that's a value that we probably should seriously think about taking a stab at, roughly half price on the life pack. So.
The V1 versions realistically probably only got a couple of years left in them.
Eric, I know you may not be prepared. You may not be prepared for this question. How many patients do you suspect out of every 10 patients? How many do you suspect get hooked up to that lead, 12-point lead?
I would say 100% of them. We use even on BLS calls. We use pulse oximetry, carbon monoxide monitoring, automatic blood pressure cuff monitoring, all of the features except EKGs. As far as patients who go on EKG monitors, pretty much everybody that qualifies for ALS care, and Jamie might be able to give you a better estimate on this than I can as far as the billing side of it goes. But the reality side of it goes, if they get a paramedic, they get a monitor. That's generally the rule. So I would say probably anywhere from 65 to 75% of patients end up getting put on the heart monitor.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, are we
Yes.
talking about item number 2 here?
Yes.
We've talked about enough of them on that. I think we can try.
Are any of the other prices time sensitive?
Let's see. The ambulance, of course, never. The lead time on some of them has me concerned. The Lucas devices, that's a pretty good deal on, but they're in pretty high demand right now, so I don't see that moving a whole lot. I'd say the monitors are probably going to be the ones that the price is very, very time sensitive on. All the accessories that go with them, everything, extra batteries, cases, extra cuffs for the non-invasive blood pressure monitoring, all of that stuff is 50% off right now. And I believe through that date. But they're only offering that while they have them. Like I said, I would imagine Physio, being a very large company, will probably start putting their money towards the next new and latest and greatest model after this sale.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Maybe I just done some quick math here, and so just looking at it from the number side, okay? I think the chief knows more about the need for the equipment and the quality and how many we need and that sort of thing. But looking at just the numbers, we received about $1.1 million in care money. And at our last meeting, we spent just almost 215,000 of that, and piecemeal, and we've already discussed those this evening. So that leaves us about $881,000 left of that care money, almost 882,000. We've got a billing issue payment that's going to be approaching us of almost $700,000. So that would actually leave us about $190,000 or so. If I figured this right, that we could spend off of this and not have a negative impact on the reserves that we've indicated that we would be still at about 4.5 months of reserve. So spending any more than that would shorten that down. Okay, so keep that in mind, whatever decision that the board would make on that, is that, I think the board is, we look at the reports every month and it shows how much money we have in reserve and how many months that would operate for. And so that seems to be a factor in going forward. So with that being said, I just think we need to be very cautious on what we're spending on and how much we're spending. Not to take anything from the chief and the need of some specialty equipment. But if we spend more than that $190,000, it would have a negative impact on us, on our reserves.
I don't have a list of those. Can you put that list of stuff back up, or do you have another list?
Can you put your list, a current list up there?
It wasn't in our packet anywhere. Was it?
No.
There's a last meeting. Stole it from my last meeting.
Is that up there on the board, hopefully? Here, let me try this. I'll go about it this way.
Chief, it's, yeah, there you go. If, I hate to put you on the spot with this, but if you had $190,000 to spend on that list, what would you determine to be the most valuable for the district?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, the audio cut off out there, but I think I got the gist of your question, Mr. Meehan. Honestly, the most important thing on that list would either be an ambulance or the monitors. Those probably number 1 and 2. You know, we've taken care of the first 2. I'd say I would stick with the priority list as it stands. We've already got the Zolls, so the next 2 things would be either one of those.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want to, just as a reminder that we as a board have made a commitment each year to make purchases of ambulances, and this would get us in advance. And this would put us out ahead of next year's plan. So this would be an expense that we would not have hit us. I mean, it'd be something that we would be planning for in advance, and we'd have the money in place, and we wouldn't, yes?
Actually, we wouldn't be ahead on ambulances. This year, we only replaced 1. We bought 2, but 1 was just a replacement for that accident. That wasn't a unit that needed replaced. So we would still actually be behind with those ambulances. With those monitors, like Eric said, we had that set, but we were going to have to replace, I think there was 4 of them that we'd have to replace in 2 years anyways, at the full price of $42,000, which would be almost the same, just a little bit less than the cost of purchasing 8.
The point is, before this money, we had no plan to order an ambulance this year. This would put us in advance of it being in the budget next year. I mean, it just gives us an opportunity to jump ahead on a couple of things, such as the ventilators and ambulances. So that's all I'll comment on that. So.
Yeah, Jamie, you're correct on that 4, and then there's 2 more the year after that.
Those monitors look like an economic, that looks like a good deal to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what that even is, to say true. The dollars, that works. I don't see that we need a new ambulance out of this, but that's just my thought. I think some of that money should be put back for that building issue, if it becomes an issue.
And this is.
So is there a motion for the life pack monitors?
I'll make a motion on the life packs. And maybe we set on the rest of it for a bit.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We have no new business, so are there any announcements? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.